Commander Lila Stryker was known across the United Earth Fleet as a woman of unwavering integrity, sharp intellect, and a tactical mind that could outthink any opponent. For years, she had been entrusted with some of the most sensitive missions in human space, from securing new colonies to managing diplomatic negotiations with alien species. Her reputation was spotless, her loyalty to humanity unquestioned. She had worked hard to get where she was, earning every promotion with grit and determination. To many, Lila was the ideal officer, a protector of Earth's future, a leader without equal. But beneath her strong exterior, there was a secret, a dangerous, hidden part of her life that even her closest colleagues would never understand. And it was this secret that would soon unravel everything. The story began aboard the Horizon, a sleek, state-of-the-art exploration vessel at the very edge of human-occupied space. This distant corner of the galaxy had always been a land of mystery and untapped potential. The United Earth Fleet had expanded into this region, forging alliances with alien species and exploring unknown worlds. However, it wasn't all peaceful exploration. There were whispers of a growing threat, an alliance of warlike factions who had begun to eye Earth's expanding colonies with hostile intent. Tensions were high, and paranoia ran deep within the human factions. Every diplomatic mission felt like walking on a razor's edge. Lila's new assignment was delicate, a task that would define her future in the fleet. She was to travel to the Trelgar homeworld and negotiate a trade and scientific alliance with the Trelgar, an enigmatic species that had intrigued humanity for years. The Trelgar were known for their advanced technology and peaceful ways. Rumors swirled that they were the remnants of a once great civilization, their power now diminished, but still formidable. If the alliance succeeded, it could be a turning point for Earth, a new ally with technologies that could help ward off the looming threat of the warlike factions. But, as always, there was a catch. No one truly knew the Trelgar's motivations, and there were whispers that they were hiding something far darker beneath their calm exterior. As the Horizon approached the Trelgar homeworld, the anticipation among the crew was palpable. Lila, ever the professional, focused on the mission. She reviewed the diplomatic protocols, the expected trade proposals, the scientific exchanges that would lay the groundwork for the future. She couldn't afford to let anything distract her, especially not her personal feelings. But the moment she set foot on the Trelgar planet, she knew something was different. The air felt charged, electric, as if the very atmosphere was alive. The Trelgar greeted her with warmth, their leaders presenting themselves as calm, dignified figures who made no attempt to hide their wisdom. Among them was Terev, a leader unlike any other Lila had met. His presence was magnetic, drawing her in like a force of nature. He was tall, with silvery eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries, his every word carefully measured. But there was an undercurrent to him, something that made Lila's pulse quicken, something that made her heart race in a way she had never expected. At first, their interactions were professional, as expected. Terev was a masterful diplomat, speaking of peace and unity between their two species. Lila, too, kept her guard up, focused solely on the mission. But it didn't take long before the lines between professional and personal began to blur. Terev's charm was undeniable, his words like silk. Over the course of several meetings, Lila found herself drawn to him in a way that went beyond diplomacy. What began as a series of friendly conversations turned into private talks, then into shared moments that left Lila questioning her own sense of control. Terev was not just a brilliant leader, he was a puzzle she couldn't resist trying to solve. And before she knew it, Lila found herself entangled in a passionate affair with him, a relationship that she couldn't explain, one that seemed to defy all logic. It wasn't just the attraction, though, that was undeniable. It was something deeper, something that made her feel alive in ways she hadn't felt in years. But as Lila's feelings for Terev deepened, so too did the revelation that she had fallen into a trap. The Trelgar, as peaceful as they seemed, had been playing a much darker game. It was not just a love affair, it was part of a larger strategic manipulation. Lila, in her naivety, had become a pawn. Terev's affections, though real, were also calculated. The Trelgar had used her status as a high-ranking officer in the United Earth Fleet to influence Earth's decision-making processes. Her personal connection with him had been nothing more than a tool in their diplomatic strategy, designed to sway her, to manipulate her into securing an alliance on their terms. The revelation hit Leela like a tidal wave. She felt betrayed, not just by Terev, but by herself. How could she have allowed herself to fall for this? How could she have let her emotions cloud her judgment so completely? She realized the gravity of her mistake by becoming involved with Terev. She had jeopardized not only her career, but also the future of Earth itself. The Trelgar's true motives were far from peaceful. They were using her to ensure that Earth would bend to their will, that humanity would serve as an ally in their shadowy plan to dominate the galaxy. Consumed with guilt, Leela knew she couldn't stay any longer. She couldn't face the crew that had once trusted her, nor could she look Earth in the eye, knowing what she had allowed to happen. So, in a desperate attempt to escape the crushing weight of her betrayal, she fled. She left the horizon behind, leaving her ship, her crew, and everything she had worked for. With Terev, she vanished into the vastness of space, a fugitive from the only life she had ever known. Back on Earth, the fallout was immediate. Earth's leaders demanded her return, her name now synonymous with betrayal. The United Earth Fleet branded her a traitor, a symbol of humanity's vulnerability to alien influence. As Leela tried to come to terms with her actions, she found herself trapped between the man she had fallen for and the species she had sworn to protect. The future of humanity, her future, hung in the balance, and Leela knew that she would never be able to escape the consequences of what she had done. Leela had hoped that exile on the Trelgar homeworld would provide her with the quiet life she had imagined. She had abandoned everything: her career, her people, her planet, all for the chance to be with Terev, the one person who had made her feel alive in a way no one else had. She had made a choice, and now she was supposed to live with it. But instead of the peace she had expected, Leela found herself immersed in a growing unease. As she settled into her new life on the alien world, small, disturbing things began to surface. The quiet, peaceful life she thought she had found with Terev felt increasingly like a gilded cage. The first cracks appeared in her perception of Terev. He was no longer the warm, magnetic leader she had once known. He had grown distant, cold even, as though the passion he had once shown was now replaced by a deep, calculated indifference. At first, Leela told herself it was the stress of her situation, that perhaps she was imagining things. But when she began to notice the signs, secretive meetings, cryptic conversations with high-ranking Trelgar officials, she realized the truth was far darker than she could have ever imagined. Terev was not the ally he had portrayed himself to be. He wasn't the passionate, misunderstood lover who had swept her off her feet. Instead, he was a key player in a far-reaching conspiracy that had been unfolding for centuries. The Trelgar had been manipulating humanity long before Leela's arrival. They had used her, not just for the diplomatic mission. The truth became clear. Earth was in grave danger, but not from the alien warlords who had been threatening its colonies. The real threat came from the Trelgar themselves. As the weeks passed, Leela began to piece together the fragments of information she had uncovered. The Trelgar had long sought to dominate Earth. Their superior technology, once thought to be a gift, was actually a tool for subjugation. The Trelgar intended to replace humanity's governance with their own, taking control of Earth's colonies and using their technological advancements to enslave humanity in a galaxy-wide empire. The alliance they had proposed was never about peace, it was about control. Leela's sense of betrayal deepened as she realized the scale of the manipulation. She had not just been a pawn in Terev's personal game, she had been a crucial part of the Trelgar strategy. Her affair with him was a calculated move, meant to sway Earth's decision-makers. Her very emotions, the love she had believed was real, had been part of the Trelgar's manipulation to soften her to their cause. They had used her trust to get closer to Earth's core, to gain access to its most valuable resources and secrets. This realization hit Leela like a punch to the gut. She had betrayed her own people. She had helped bring about a future where Earth's autonomy was no longer a given. The weight of her actions pressed down on her, threatening to crush her. Self-loathing seeped into every thought, every action. The once strong, confident leader was now broken, questioning everything she had believed in. How had she been so blind? How had she allowed herself to be so thoroughly deceived? The psychological toll of the betrayal began to take its toll on her. The guilt was suffocating. Every moment with Derev, every whispered word, every stolen kiss now felt like a trap, a lie. Leela had fallen for a man who had never cared for her, not really. He had used her. She had been a tool in his grand design, and now she was left with nothing but the ruins of her own choices. But as she struggled with her guilt and self-loathing, another bombshell dropped. Earth had not forgotten about her. A retrieval team had been sent to bring her back. They had orders to arrest her and bring her to Earth for trial to face the consequences of her treason. But the message she received from her old crew was anything but simple. They didn't see her as a traitor. They saw her as a woman lost in a dangerous game. Her former commanding officer, now a fleet commander, reached out to her personally. He expressed a flicker of hope, a belief that she could be saved. The conflict within Lila was unbearable. Part of her wanted to return to Earth and face the consequences of her actions. She had betrayed her people, and she owed them an explanation. But another part of her was hesitant, torn by the bond she still felt with Derev. Despite the betrayal, there was a part of her that still loved him, that still hoped he cared for her in return. Could she betray him too? Could she turn her back on everything they had built, even if it was built on lies? As if things weren't complicated enough, she learned of a new, more terrifying aspect of the Trelgar's plans. They were manipulating the warlike alien factions they had been playing against Earth. These factions, once enemies, were being turned into allies in the Trelgar's bid for dominance. The Trelgar had been pulling the strings all along, orchestrating a cosmic chess game with Earth and the other alien species as mere pawns. If Earth didn't act soon, they would be caught in the middle of a war they hadn't seen coming. The Trelgar were setting up a perfect storm, a war between the species that would lead to humanity's downfall. The clock was ticking. Leela knew that the information she had uncovered was vital. It was the key to stopping the Trelgar before it was too late. But the only way to get that information to Earth was to return to the one place she had been avoiding, the very fleet she had once called home. She was trapped between two worlds. The love she once had for Derev, the man who had deceived her, now felt like a betrayal of everything she had fought for. Yet her duty to Earth called her back, demanding that she stand up for humanity's future. But could she return to a place that now saw her as a traitor? And if she did, could she stop the Trelgar's plans before it was too late? Leela was running out of time, and the stakes had never been higher. Her past mistakes had brought her to this point, but now she faced a choice: save the species she had once sworn to protect, or stand by the man she had once loved, whose loyalty now seemed as hollow as her own. Leela stood at the precipice of everything she had known, feeling both terror and resolve churn within her. After days of sleepless nights, weighing the consequences of every possible choice, she finally made up her mind. She would return to Earth. Not as the traitor she had been branded, not as the woman who abandoned her people for a lover. A weapon forged in guilt and resolve, one capable of turning the tables on the Trelgar and stopping them from executing their long-laid plans. It was time to expose the conspiracy. It was time to redeem herself and prove that she still believed in humanity, even if humanity didn't believe in her anymore. When the decision was made, she informed Derev, expecting some form of backlash, but none came. His face remained impassive, a mask Lila had grown all too familiar with in recent weeks. Despite the years they had spent together, despite the secrets they had shared, she could see now that she had never truly known him. His indifference toward her decision only solidified her resolve. She could no longer be manipulated by him, nor by the Trelgar. It was time to end their plans, even if it meant facing the consequences of her past actions head-on. The journey back to Earth was nothing like she had imagined. For one, there was no grand reception awaiting her. Instead, Leela arrived in the middle of a storm of mixed emotions and volatile political landscapes. Earth's government was divided. Some hailed her return as a victory, believing that she had escaped the Trelgar's grasp and come to warn them of the looming threat. Others, however, saw her as nothing more than a traitor who had willingly sold out humanity. The mixed reactions left her standing in the middle, with no clear way forward. Her face, once a symbol of authority, now carried the weight of distrust, and no amount of public speeches or explanations could erase the image of her betrayal. But it wasn't just the people's opinion that rattled Lila, it was the deepening realization of the gravity of the conspiracy. As Leela shared the information she had gathered from her time with the Trelgar, it became clear that the alien species' plans were far more extensive and dangerous than anyone could have imagined. They had been pulling the strings behind the scenes, influencing Earth's political and military decisions for years. Their ultimate goal wasn't just to dominate Earth's colonies. It was to replace humanity's leadership and take control of all of humanity's resources. But what sent shockwaves through the council chambers wasn't the Trelgar's manipulation. It was the revelation that certain factions within Earth's own government had been complicit in this conspiracy. Some high-ranking officials, blinded by greed and the promises of Trelgar technology, had secretly aligned themselves with the aliens, believing that the Trelgar could catapult humanity into a new era of power. They had thought that aligning with the Trelgar would secure humanity's place as a dominant force in the galaxy. They had been wrong, and now, the very people who were supposed to protect Earth were just as dangerous as the Trelgar themselves. Leela's task was no longer just about stopping the Trelgar. It was about exposing the corruption that ran deep within her own people's ranks. The weight of this truth was more than she had anticipated. She had come back to Earth hoping for redemption. She was no longer fighting a foreign enemy. She was fighting within her own walls. The battle now raged not only against the Trelgar, but against those who had sold out their own species in exchange for power and technology. Amidst the revelation of Earth's political corruption, Leela was faced with an even more gut-wrenching moral dilemma. A proposal was put forward. Earth would launch an all-out attack on the Trelgar homeworld. This would be the final blow, a war that would obliterate the Trelgar and any hope for peace between the two species. It was humanity's last chance to secure its future. However, as Lila stood before the council, hearing the words of war echoing in her mind, she felt the suffocating weight of the decision. The destruction of the Trelgar would ensure humanity's survival, but at what cost? Leela knew the Trelgar had a powerful weapon, one capable of collapsing entire star systems, destroying both friend and foe alike. They had kept it hidden, but Leela knew it was still in their grasp. An all-out war would not only decimate the Trelgar, it could set off a chain reaction that would destabilize the galaxy. Countless innocent lives would be lost, and the very balance of power in the universe could be destroyed. The thought of so many innocent lives lost in the name of survival gnawed at Lila's conscience. Could she, the woman who had once served as a protector, justify a war that could lead to galactic annihilation? The Council urged her to lead the charge, to finally make a decisive move and end the Trelgar threat once and for all. They saw her as the only one with the knowledge to carry out such an operation. But Leela saw the cracks in their reasoning. The same factions that had betrayed humanity were now the ones demanding war. The irony of it all was bitter. How could she lead a charge that would condemn so many innocents to death just to avenge a personal betrayal? How could she reconcile her own guilt with the lives of those who were innocent in this cosmic chess game? It wasn't just a matter of loyalty anymore. It was a matter of survival, not just of Earth, but of every being in the galaxy caught in this web of deceit. Humanity had a choice: to seek revenge and destroy the Trelgar, or to find a way to prevent the galaxy from spiraling into chaos. Leela stood at the crossroads, unsure of which path to take. But the decision was not hers alone to make. It would take more than just one person to turn the tide of this battle. Earth needed to rally together, not just against the Trelgar, but against the forces within their own ranks that had been complicit in this scheme. The fight ahead would not just be about survival, it would be about humanity's soul. Could they truly redeem themselves, or had they already sold out their future for a promise of power? As Leela stood before the council, with the weight of her past and the future of Earth in her hands, she realized that no matter what decision she made, there would be consequences. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would she. Leela stood at the edge of her decision, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. Earth's forces were ready for war. She could feel the pulse of military ships gearing up for the attack, the cold hum of their engines a stark contrast to the warmth she had once felt serving her home planet. A military solution was the easiest, the most straightforward. Yet, Leela couldn't bring herself to make that call. The galaxy had suffered enough from endless cycles of violence. If she could do one thing to prevent it, one thing to bring an end to this conflict, it would be to find another way. She had to outsmart them. Rather than attacking the Trelgar directly, Lila had another idea, one that took everything she had learned in her time among them and on Earth. It wasn't about firepower or military might. It was about alliances. She would go on the offensive, not with ships or weapons, but with unity. Her mission was clear: expose the Trelgar's true motives to the galaxy's neutral species and rally them against the alien race, showing them the truth. The Trelgar, once believed to be a peaceful, enlightened species, were manipulators who had been playing the entire galaxy like pawns in a game for millennia. Leela had the evidence, the resources, and the intelligence to change the course of the galaxy's future. She faced almost impossible odds. Earth's military forces were furious with her decision to take a diplomatic route. They wanted blood. They wanted victory. Many of her old comrades, still holding onto their grudge over her past betrayal, called her a coward. But Leela knew she couldn't follow that path. This wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about something far larger, the survival of the galaxy as a whole. The Trelgar weren't just after Earth. They were after everyone. They wanted to control the flow of power in the galaxy, to weave their influence into every corner of the known universe. Leela made her move, reaching out to alien factions, to species that had always stood on the sidelines, to those who had never been fully involved in the war. It was slow at first. Some refused to listen. Others remained neutral. But then something began to shift. The first whispers of rebellion grew louder. The Trelgar, once thought to be infallible, were no longer seen as the peaceful allies they claimed to be. The truth was out, and it spread like wildfire. Leela's efforts began to pay off as these neutral races, once hesitant, finally understood the scope of the Trelgar's plans. Slowly but surely, she had managed to shift the balance of power, not through military might, but through diplomacy. She had begun to unite the galaxy, not against one alien faction, but against the shadowy manipulation that had been occurring for centuries. But just when Leela thought she had won, the unexpected happened. The Rev, the one person she had trusted above all others, appeared in a blaze of fury and desperation. He came, not with weapons or threats, but with something far more dangerous: the truth. Leela's heart skipped a beat as she watched him approach. His once smooth demeanor now cracked, his eyes filled with a desperation she had never seen before. He had always been the calm, calculating leader of the Trelgar, but now he seemed vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, Lila felt a flicker of something she had long buried. "Tarev," she whispered, her voice a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. He did not greet her warmly. There was no touch, no familiar affection. Instead, he looked at her with a sad understanding. "You think you've won, Lila, but you've only uncovered half the story. The Trelgar are not the true enemy. We are merely pawns, just like you." Leela's breath caught. What was he saying? "The Trelgar," he continued, "are not the architects of this war. We have been manipulated by something far older, a force we can neither comprehend nor control. The truth is, the Trelgar are nothing more than a front for an ancient cosmic power. This force has been pulling our strings for eons, and it has been pulling yours too." Leela was silent. The galaxy, her entire reality, seemed to falter for a moment as she processed his words. Was this another manipulation? Was he trying to sway her again? But the look in his eyes was not the calculating gaze of the leader she once loved. It was something else entirely. Desperation. Regret. Fear. "The war isn't over, Lila." "It hasn't even begun," Tarev continued, his voice cracking with a tension she had never heard from him before. "The real enemy is not us. It's what lies behind us, controlling everything. The very fabric of the galaxy is at stake. The Trelgar, the Earth, the other alien factions. They're all pieces in a much larger game, a game that will consume us all if we don't act now." Leela was numb. For a moment, the weight of it all nearly broke her. She had fought so hard to expose the Trelgar, believing they were the root of all evil. But now, she realized how little she truly understood. What was this new threat? Who was this force behind the scenes? The truth hit her like a hammer. The galaxy wasn't just divided by species. It wasn't just about the Trelgar manipulating Earth. It was about something far more complicated, far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Humanity had been playing their part in this cosmic game, not knowing that the pieces were set far beyond their control. Leela was forced to confront the ultimate question: was humanity truly the master of its own fate, or was it nothing more than a pawn in a far grander, far older cosmic game? The ramifications of this realization were vast. If there was a force pulling the strings of the galaxy, then the question was not how to defeat the Trelgar, but how to fight something so ancient, so powerful, that it existed beyond time itself. And what did that mean for humanity? Were they truly capable of charting their own path, or were they doomed to repeat the same cycles of destruction, forever bound to the will of a force they could never fully comprehend? The galaxy now lay on the brink of something far darker, and Lila, once a soldier of Earth, now found herself in the eye of a storm much greater than anything she could have imagined. With Derev's revelations, she knew that the true battle was only just beginning, and whether humanity could ever truly control its own destiny was a question that would echo through the ages.